$7 billion in stolen Bitcoin, 128,000 victims, a billion-dollar Ponzi scheme run by one woman, Zhimin Qian. She fooled investors, outsmarted law enforcement, and framed her own assistants. This is the story of how she built an empire, how it collapsed, and the billion-dollar question, what happened to the Bitcoin? Qian Zhimin was born on September 4, 1978. Before she became one of China's most wanted fugitives, little was known about her. She lived in obscurity until 2014, when she suddenly appeared as a successful entrepreneur with a company carrying a grand name, Tianjin Lanshan Geruai Electronic Technology. On paper, it looked like the future. The company offered investment products that promised extraordinary returns, up to 300%. To make the scheme sound modern and credible, Qian claimed the firm also operated in the booming world of Bitcoin mining. Her marketing campaign was aggressive. Through WeChat, China's biggest messaging app, her company blasted advertisements promising guaranteed wealth. Investors were told they could earn stable profits of 100 to 300%, with a minimum entry of $6,000 locked in for 6 to 30 months. It was presented as risk-free, a safe bet in an uncertain world. The slogan said it all: give the company 3 years, and the company will give you wealth for 3 lifetimes. The victims were not Wall Street professionals. They were ordinary Chinese families, pensioners who dreamed of doubling their savings, teachers and shopkeepers who wanted a better life for their children, workers who scraped together every yuan they could, believing this was their chance for financial security. They were promised stability, prosperity, and a future free of worry. To make her empire look untouchable, Qian staged elaborate performances. She rented Beijing's Diaoyutai State Guest House, a venue normally reserved for presidents and foreign VIP guests. Investors walked through its grand halls, felt that it was backed by power at the highest level. She even set her sights abroad. Wealthy clients were flown to London, where Qian rented a small office in the city center, hung up her company's sign, and called it her London branch. Investors saw this as evidence of international expansion. She also staged visits to Bitcoin mining farms. Investors were led into warehouses filled with outdated machines, blinking lights, and buzzing fans. To outsiders with no knowledge of blockchain, it looked convincing. Employees used jargon like hash rates and block rewards to complete the illusion. Many walked away dazzled, believing they had seen the future of finance. By 2017, the numbers were staggering. Qian's company had drawn in 128,000 investors and grown to a staff of 50, but she kept her own name hidden. On every legal document, one man appeared: her assistant. He was the official representative, the legal face of the company, and the one set up to take the fall when it collapsed. For this role, he was paid a $150,000 one-off bonus and a monthly salary of $4,000. His name opened the bank accounts. His name registered the crypto exchange accounts on Huobi. Yet he controlled nothing. Qian managed every cent behind the curtain. In truth, she was a ghost. Investors believed they were part of a cutting-edge operation. In reality, every yuan poured into the company went straight to Huobi, where Qian converted it all into Bitcoin, swelling her private digital wallet while ordinary people waited for profits that would never come. By mid-2017, the cracks began to show. Investors tried to withdraw money. Payments were delayed. When more tried to cash out and failed, panic spread quickly. Crowds demanded their savings back, but there was nothing left. The pyramid started to collapse under its own weight, and Chinese authorities launched an investigation. Qian knew the end was coming, but she had already planned her escape. With the help of accomplices, she secured multiple fake identities. Using a Myanmar passport under the name Nan Yin, she slipped out of China and crossed into Laos. She carried almost nothing with her, only a black Lenovo laptop. Inside was a crypto wallet holding thousands of bitcoins. At the time, the fortune was worth about $175 million. In Myanmar, she made a $150,000 donation to the Sustainable Development Fund of St. Kitts and Nevis, which granted her a legitimate passport from the Caribbean island nation. That single document gave her visa-free access to 155 countries, including the United Kingdom. Her timing was perfect. Within months, the value of Bitcoin doubled. Her stash grew to $300 million, then $400 million. By the end of the year, she controlled one of the largest personal Bitcoin fortunes in the world. The cruel irony was clear. If her victims had simply bought Bitcoin directly instead of trusting her promises, many of them would have truly become rich. Instead, their savings had built her empire. By September of 2017, Qian arrived in London. The passport in her hand said she was a 27-year-old citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. In reality, she was nearly 40, a fugitive who had stolen millions, and she had just walked into Britain carrying what was perhaps the most expensive laptop on the planet. For Qian Zhimin, the story of her fraud in China was only the beginning. In London, her schemes were about to reach an entirely new level. When Qian arrived in London, she checked into the Royal Garden Hotel on Kensington High Street, a discreet but elegant choice. But there was a problem. She could not speak English. And, just as in China, she needed a scapegoat, someone who could translate her words, appear on documents, and take the blame if and when things went south. She turned to WeChat, the same app she had used to lure investors back home. On it, she posted an ad for a Mandarin-speaking assistant. The reply came from someone who had no idea she was stepping into the heart of a billion-dollar fraud. Her name was Jian Wen, a single mother. She'd escaped an abusive marriage and was struggling to survive in one of the most unforgiving cities in the world. She lived in a hostel with her young son, scraped together rent money from menial jobs, and often worked late nights in a noisy Chinese takeaway. Her life was a daily battle for survival. Their first meeting was surreal. Qian appeared in a traditional Thai dress, her presence radiating wealth and control. She introduced herself as a successful jewelry entrepreneur newly arrived in London and planning to expand her empire. Wen had no experience, no references, and no real background for the role. For Qian, that was perfect. Vulnerable, desperate, and eager to please, exactly the kind of person she needed. The deal was sealed. Qian offered £4,000 a month in cash to act as carer, assistant, and translator. For Wen, it was an escape from poverty. For Qian, it was just the start of her new double life. At first, the tasks looked harmless: shopping trips, groceries, translating conversations, opening bank accounts. But soon the responsibilities darkened. Wen was sent to secure fake documents, arrange cash deliveries worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, and even travel abroad to handle transactions for her employer. The transformation was staggering. Within months, Wen had gone from sleeping in a cramped hostel to negotiating the lease of a Hampstead mansion at over £17,000 a month. She falsified income statements and source of funds paperwork to convince the landlords. She allowed Qian to move millions through her personal bank accounts, deceiving compliance officers with fake records. The contrast was jarring. One moment she was scraping dishes in a takeaway kitchen, the next she was attending property viewings in London's wealthiest neighborhoods, shopping at Harrods, and driving luxury cars. From the clatter of hostel corridors to the hushed opulence of Hampstead Gardens, Wen had been catapulted into another world. Meanwhile, Qian set her ambitions even higher. Renting was not enough. She wanted to own a piece of London's wealthiest enclaves. Through property advisor Lev Loganov of London Wall, she identified an 8-bedroom Hampstead mansion worth £23.5 million, complete with an indoor pool. Qian insisted on paying in Bitcoin, but when solicitors asked for proof of funds, she had nothing credible to show. In the UK, solicitors are not just legal representatives, they act as gatekeepers. They must verify a buyer's identity, perform due diligence on the source of funds, and in cases of suspicion, report directly to authorities. Qian's story raised red flags immediately. Still, she pressed forward, and London Wall introduced her to Exmoor Partners, a licensed broker willing to bend the rules. Exmoor did more than just accept her Bitcoin. They converted part of it and provided £850,000 for the property deposit, while also producing documents that falsely certified the funds as clean and legitimate. It was an audacious act of money laundering, an attempt to inject illicit crypto into the very traditional world of London real estate. But the deal collapsed when the seller demanded more money. Qian quickly shifted her sights to another estate, a £12.5 million Totteridge Common property, equipped with a cinema, gym, and sauna. Yet by this point, Wen's accounts had begun to collapse under scrutiny. Banks flagged and shut them down due to the unexplained movement of millions. Solicitors pressed harder, demanding verifiable blockchain evidence of Qian's supposed fortune. At first, she refused to provide wallet addresses. When she finally did, the truth was devastating. Her bitcoins were not mined as she had claimed. Blockchain records showed they came from hundreds of wallets, shady exchanges, and suspicious transactions. The source of her fortune was unmistakable. It was dirty money. And because blockchain is permanent and transparent, the evidence could not be erased. The illusion shattered. What began as whispers of doubt turned into formal suspicion. Soon the case landed on the desks of the London Metropolitan Police. Qian's double life in London, the desperate assistant, the luxury mansions, the Bitcoin millions, was about to come crashing down. Before we jump into the next chapter, if you're finding this story interesting, make sure to subscribe to Dirty Digits. I dive deep into the world of financial crime, money laundering, and fraud, the stuff hidden behind polished headlines. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. All right, let's get back into it. On the morning of October 31, 2018, a quiet Hampstead street became the stage for one of London's most dramatic financial crime raids. Metropolitan police officers specializing in money laundering pulled up outside a red brick manor house. In the driveway sat a sleek black Mercedes-Benz E-Class. Behind the wheel was Jian Wen. When officers approached, Wen resisted. She refused to let them in. Within minutes, more units arrived. The car was surrounded. The silence of Hampstead broke under the weight of authority. Finally, Wen relented, opening the door and leading them inside. Upstairs, they found Zhimin Qian, calm, silent, reclining in bed as if nothing in the world could touch her. She spoke little English, offered no resistance, and seemed unshaken as officers began tearing her empire apart. The search turned up stacks of cash, laptops, notebooks, and, almost overlooked, a small pink USB stick tucked inside a metal tin. The officers bagged everything. No arrests were made. To them, it looked just like another raid. They had no idea they had stumbled across the fuse to a digital fortune worth billions. For 2.5 years, the evidence sat locked away in storage. Investigators worked slowly, methodically. Law enforcement often moves at a grinding pace, and it would take years before the true scale of what they had discovered came to light. Meanwhile, Wen carried on working for Qian. In 2019 and 2020, she acted as a courier, converting Bitcoin to cash through underground traders. Bags of money were exchanged in hotel lobbies and coffee shops, and Qian's reach spread beyond Britain. In Dubai, Wen linked up with property broker Michael Burke of Arabian Escapes. With his help, she acquired 2 luxury apartments in the glittering city of glass towers and oil money. Burke reassured her not to worry about the source of funds. He promised to take care of everything. And he did. Beyond property, Burke personally arranged the conversion of millions in bitcoins through his offshore network, using MJB holdings in the Seychelles and outsourced service solutions in Switzerland. The profits were funneled into prepaid cards and discreetly delivered back to Qian. Wen was still playing the role of frontwoman, but the cracks were widening. Her name was on everything: accounts, contracts, property, documents. Qian stayed in the shadows while Wen carried the risk. Then came August 2020. Investigators finally unlocked the pink USB stick. Inside were the private keys to more than 61,000 bitcoins. It was one of the largest cryptocurrency seizures in history. At the time, the stash was worth around $700 million. By then, Qian had vanished. Authorities confirmed her true identity, a fugitive wanted in China for orchestrating a $6 billion Ponzi scheme that defrauded 128,000 investors. That left Jian Wen to face the fallout. The woman who once lived in mansions now found herself back in a modest South London flat, raising her son alone, scraping by in a restaurant job. The luxury cars and Hampstead Gardens were gone, and this time she would lose more than wealth. In 2021, police came back, not for Qian, but for Wen. She was arrested, charged with laundering the billions tied to her employer's fraud. In May 2024, she was sentenced to 6 years and 8 months in prison. The woman who thought she had found a lifeline ended up trading her freedom for a prison cell. But was she a victim or an accomplice? Wen insisted that she was duped, that she believed Qian's fortune came from jewelry and Bitcoin. She told investigators she had no idea what was really going on. Yet as she signed forged documents and moved suspicious sums through her accounts, the line between naivete and complicity blurred. Was she blinded by desperation or seduced by greed? That question still hangs over her story. For years, Qian remained a ghost, a phantom billionaire wanted in China, missing in London, untouchable. But in a stunning twist in 2024, the hunt ended. The mastermind was finally captured in the UK. Her years on the run brought to a dramatic close. Her trial is scheduled for September 2025 at Southwark Crown Court, where the world will finally learn her fate. Yet the real mystery lies not with Qian or Wen. It lies with the fate of the Bitcoin. By August of 2025, the seized coins had soared in value to over $7 billion. And now the UK Treasury holds the keys to this fortune. What happens next could spark a geopolitical storm. On one side is Britain itself, staring down a £44.5 billion budget deficit. Selling the coins would provide an instant windfall, a way to patch gaping holes in the economy. Officials are already preparing for liquidation. From their perspective, the crime was prosecuted in the UK, so the proceeds should stay in the UK. On the other side is China, and behind it the 128,000 victims of Qian's fraud. These were ordinary families, workers, and retirees who poured their savings into a false promise. Beijing, despite banning cryptocurrency, insists the money is stolen property that must be returned to its citizens. So who should get the money? The country that cracked the case? Or the victims who were robbed in the first place? Is this finders keepers on a global scale, or a chance to right a devastating wrong?